An historic day in Rome. Pope Francis and Pope Emeritus Benedict appeared together in the Vatican gardens as Francis issued his first encyclical. The letter to bishops about the role of faith in Christian life was largely written by Benedict before he stepped down in February. The Vatican also announced that Francis is making two of his predecessors saints. Francis said that for the second time, John Paul's intercession led to a miracle, curing of a Costa Rican woman suffering from a cerebral aneurysm. Two miracles are required for sainthood, but Francis also approved the canonization of Pope John XXIII, though only one miracle is attributed to him. John reigned from 1958 to 63 and convened the Second Vatican Council, which reformed the Church. His body is on display in St. Peter's Basilica. A joint canonization ceremony for John XXIII and John Paul II is expected later this year.
In lieu of the fact that the modern Church proclaimed John XXIII, Angelo Roncalli, a saint, it is necessary to reveal that he truly believed and promoted, along with his detrimental impact on the Church. As an individual, first must understand Angelo Roncalli before one can truly understand the new Church he helped to create. When John XXIII was elected, the Church had never been more powerful in terms of nominal adherence and potential influence, and yet it was still tilting at the windmills of modernism and dissent. As strongly organised anti-Catholic and anti-religious forces worked against the Church inside and out to corrupt, weaken and destroy her, John XXIII sided with modernists, anti-clerical liberals and revolutionary socialists. Far from being mere transitional, easy controllable pope, he introduced major heretical changes, especially regarding interreligious dialogue and worship. His false doctrines were accepted without question because he was considered to be the Pope. John XXIII was a wolf in sheep's clothing, deceiving countless souls by means of false obedience. Many were misled by his words of goodwill, separated brethren, brotherly love, and unity that fooled people into thinking he was going to change things for the better. In order to introduce revolutionary, sweeping changes, he had to trap people into thinking things were so bad in the Church that radical changes were needed in its liturgy, government, ministry, and apostolate. John XXIII was a master deceiver with the cunning of an old fox. In a fiercely divided world, he refrained from making moral judgments when required to do so, thereby sidestepping the controversies of the time. He used his charisma to become a crafty politician. He certainly knew how to manipulate people and appeal to both sides, aligning with liberals or conservatives, depending on each situation and the particular group he was addressing. He neither reprimanded heretics nor warned Catholics of their false teaching. John XXIII wanted the Church to abandon the defence position she had maintained, and the precursor of Paul VI, he laid the foundation for a new Church. He used the Second Vatican Council to substantially change our Lord's message and replace it with moral relativism, socialism, and secular humanism. Everything could be questioned except the supreme authority of John XXIII. According to him, condemnation of heresy was uncharitable and superstitious. At Vatican II, modernist reform replaced the deposit of faith. Since real unity with non-Catholics can only be achieved by adherence to the truth, his misguided charity did not bring about conversions, but only meaningless conversations and false, empty unity. When Pastor Schwartz, prior of the Protestant Taz community, expressed his desire to change things at the Vatican, John replied, "Patience, patience. I can't do everything at once." In 1894, Marc Sagnanger founded Le Sillon, a French religious political movement to bring Catholicism closer to the ideals of the French Republic and socialism. Father Roncalli was deeply moved by one of Sagnanger's speeches. In 1910, Pope St. Pius X condemned and disbanded the movement. The Holy Father said that Le Sillon is a miserable tributary of a great movement of apostasy organized to establish everywhere a universal church that will have neither dogma or hierarchy, and which under the pretext of liberty and human dignity will bring about in the world the legal reign of delusion. Intellectual pride was one of the causes of Roncalli's abandonment of the faith. From his seminary days, Roncalli was fascinated by the latest enlightened ideas of liberalism, modernism, and socialism. Instead of rejecting the shallow irreligion of modernism, he abandoned traditional Catholicism because he considered it outdated, superstition, and irrational. Like the Freemason vulture, Father Roncalli did not consider himself nature, weak and prone to evil, but rather good and reasonable. In 1950, after Sagnanger's death, he wrote the following words to his widow: even though Sagnanger's prepared the way for the modern church by promoting modernism and socialism. The fascinating power of his words, of his mind, ravished me, and I keep of his person and of his political and social activity the most vivid memory of all my priestly youth. One cannot render homage to a clergy more eloquent to the memory of his distinguished Frenchman, in whom his contemporaries appreciated the clarity of his profoundly Christian soul and the noble sincerity of his heart. Modernism is based on selfishness and a debased love of the world. It allowed Angelo Roncalli to deny teachings of the Church while still calling himself a Catholic. His modernist beliefs permitted him to believe whatever he wanted as long as he felt it was right for him. Roncalli's loss of faith took place gradually through his close connection with modernists. By choosing the name John the 23rd, Roncalli surprised everyone, because for more than 550 years no pope had used that name. The last time the name John the 23rd had been used was in 1410 by Balsar Cosa, an illegitimately elected Antipope. He was deposed by the Council of Constance on May 29, 1415. Throughout the history of the Catholic Church, there have been 41 illegitimate popes called antipopes. These men were either impostors or were uncanonically elected, making them illegitimate successors of St. Peter. The name John the 23rd was considered unusable because the last claimant to the same name was an ex-pirate who had massacred, cheated, and purged his way to the Papacy. One wonders why Angelo Roncalli chose to take the name of such a scandalous character. Father Charles Rook said, "I'm quite sure John the 23rd chose this name, the name of an antipope of the 15th century, quite consciously, to show he had been irregularly elected. Roncalli's use of the name John the 23rd should have raised red flags to those familiar with church history and caused Catholics to seriously question his pontificate and actions." Very few individuals have affected history as negatively during the 5-year period as has the false Pope John the 23rd, the mastermind behind Vatican II. During the years following his death, millions have lost their faith and left the church. Due to the actions of John the 23rd and other modernists, unfortunately, many will never experience the beauty and wonders of the Catholic faith Christ established.